Okay, let's see if that's working. Let's see if that's working. I was hoping to get started by 2 p.m. It's 2:25. So, a little bit late. But we're on baby time these days. I'm just happy I get to stream it all. It is nice to be able to get in here and do a Takeover Tuesday live stream. Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. A lot of Tuesday Takeover 2024. I'm still trying to get my there we go. All right, let's hope everything's working. Hello, how you doing? It is a beautiful day here in southern New England. It is an absolutely lovely day. Took the boy to his 1-month pediatrician visit. He is very healthy, doing everything right. Seems to be in good shape. And yeah, we're not getting much sleep, but we're dealing. We're dealing. We've had a lot of help from my in-laws specifically, who've been visiting for the entire month. And they go home tomorrow. So today is the last day we get help. And so next week on Tuesday, who knows what's going to happen, if I'm going to be around or not. Let's see what we can be doing here while... Let's go ahead and run some Doom Tower. All right. Hello, Thomas, Pavel, Angelica, good to see you. Patent Teacher 63, you were waiting for this live. Well, I'm glad that we were able to get it done. Sorry that it is delayed. We had a pediatrician appointment today, so we weren't going to start at our normal time, which would be 1 p.m. my time. It is now almost 2:30. Hey, Hoax, but we did get some time. So right now he's with his baby mama. So I am free for the next few hours to do some takeovers. Different kind of babysitting, right? But yeah, I'm excited. I did not get to play Raid very much at all this week. I have kept pace with the Wixwell Fusion. I have all of my necessary components so I can fuse him today. Oh, thanks, Darth. Hey, Alex. Good to see you. Yeah. Takeover Tuesdays are fun, right? I enjoy them. I do enjoy them. Honestly, I enjoy live streaming more than I enjoy making videos. That's true. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy like answering questions in a live format. I enjoy making videos. But the thing about making videos is you're always under the time pressure of trying to come up with the idea, script out the video, do the research, do whatever you have to do in game to make it work, record it, edit it, do a thumbnail, come up with a title and a description, post that, and then you got to do that all in a certain time frame while baby is happening. So I'm finding it hard to make videos. I'm still doing my Monday videos and my Friday videos for the most part, but the other videos have been a little bit tricky to pull off. So I'm hoping to find a rhythm. And get in there. Hey, Silver Bullet. Good to see you. Alex, you're crossing your fingers today? Now, you've had 2 takeovers, right, Alex? I think you've had 2 takeovers in the past. I know you've had at least one. You were one of my early ones, I think. Just the one. Okay. Yeah. All right, well, tell you what we're going to do is since we started late, we're not going to belabor the point. We're not going to do too much dilly-dallying. We're just going to jump into the takeovers. So let me just say this. Hey, Femro, good to see you, man. Been a minute. Yeah. All right, cool. Let me just go through this in case there's anybody who hasn't done this before. I know there are only 15 people watching right now, so, they're not going to be that many reactions. Thank you, Darth. Yes, I will. All right, so In order to get a takeover, you have to be a member of the Discord community. Go ahead and join the Discord. There's a link in the description of this video. In the left-hand column where all the different channels are, you just want to scroll down until you see an area called the Coaching Corner. There's a channel called the Wheel of Takeover. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset that right now. There is a message from Sun. And let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so I just reset that message. And what you can do is you just react to that message. That's all you got to do. And don't type anything, just any reaction works. That'll enter you onto the wheel. In a minute, we'll spin the wheel, and the winner will get the takeover. Now, you can win one takeover every 90 days. So if you've won in the last 90 days, unfortunately, you can't win again. So it's easier if you don't put your name in the wheel, but we'll figure it out if you do, because you have a little timer that we add to you. So what's going to happen is, as soon as you win, I want you to DM me your password and email, so your login and your password, so I can start that process to get into your account. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to give you a little role that's going to allow you to join me in a channel called the Coaching Voice. I want you to join that channel, mute the stream so that you can hear me live, right? There's no delay if you're in the channel with me. And then you can just DM me what kind of takeover you're looking for. Everything's available today. Any kind of takeover you want. Thank you, Brandon. Hey, Brent. Soul Crafter. Yeah, doctor's appointment went great. Went great. He is very healthy. He's huge. He's massive. He's in like the 99th percentile in terms of weight and length. He's tall and he's big. So, but that's great. He's healthy and happy, and that's what we care about. 68.8 million on Ultra Nightmare. So close. Yeah. All right. You'll get there. You'll get there. I believe. In the meantime, my new speed tune that I did with Deadwood Jedi has completely broken. I don't know what's up with it. I haven't had a chance to sit down and try to fix it yet. So I'm back to a 3-key Ultra Nightmare, which is really weird after 2 years of being a 1-key Ultra Nightmare. So I'm trying to, I need a couple hours to figure that out. I need time to sit down, and I just don't have that time. So it's been kind of awful lately with Ultra Nightmare, but we'll get through it. All right. So let me see. Okay, right. That's how I have to. All right. Brent, I'm sorry to hear that. That is a strange and difficult thing. I will say this, as an uncle to 2 adopted children, the thing that determines parenthood is that you try, right? That if you are parenting a child, then it's your child. The genetics is much less important, although I'm not saying it's not important, and I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I understand all of that. But if you love a child and you parent a child, they're your child. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, hopefully we can provide a little bit of a fun distraction for you today. Did I empower somebody? Oh, you know what? I should empower my deacon, but I didn't. Okay. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to give everybody about 1 more minute to react. Hey, Martha. So just go ahead and find that Wheel of Takeover, react to it. We've got 20-something reactions right now. We've only got 29 viewers, so you guys are going to be lucky, because I think it's going to be a low number of viewers today because we started so late. Yeah, I understand, Brent. I'm sorry. That's really hard. That's really hard. Aqua Puppy, it's really up to you. It's really up to you if you want to wait, because you do only get one every 90 days, you know, but really up to you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel. Hopefully this works. There we go. You're not eligible unless you like the stream. I like that sauce. Smash that like button. Breeze 252. Congrats. Let me just make sure that Breeze. Okay. All right. Breeze, congratulations. You can now join me in the coaching voice. And yeah, send me your login information. Breeze, you literally contacted me like 5 days ago about a takeover. That's too funny. That's too funny. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I've just I've been crazy busy with the baby. All right, so let's go ahead and end that. All right, we got a clan boss takeover here. All right, cool. Oh, geez. I have not been deleting the old accounts. So I got to get rid of these old accounts. Okay. We're all on our own today. No Aaron to help us out. I mean, Sun. No Sun to help us out. Hey, Selena Feline, how's it going? How's the account, by the way? Selena Feline, if you don't know, Selena Feline won the HH free-to-play challenge account that I ran and came in second overall on the content creators. So I hope you've been enjoying the account. Dwarf cake of scorching palms. That's a good one. I like that one. Dwarf king. You know, he's like 6'3". He's not a dwarf of any. He's huge. The man is gigantic. Yeah, so let's see. So this is my editor whose name is Aaron. I mean, Sun. But he's not with us today. He's working. All right, Hades Wannabe. I like the name of the account. And we're specifically looking at Clan Boss, but let's go ahead and look at the account. Level 56. We are 230 days in. Okay, cool. So you are closing in on Vizix. You have your Seal of the Drakes. That's awesome. So, and this is not a judgment. I say this from time to time. I just like to assess where each account is. This feels like a casual account, right? Because you're level 56 account-wise, but you are 230 days in. Because I have run accounts where I could get to level 56 in, say, under 60 days, right? You can typically get to level 50 in like about 40 days. If you're pushing really hard, if you're hardcore, like going ham, you know, like we did for the HH challenge account. So, you know, everybody plays differently. And if you play a little bit more slowly, a little bit more casually, that's great. This is, like I said, it's not a judgment. But, you know, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, you know, so this is a player who has played consistently, but, you know, a little bit less in terms of the number of hours per day, for instance. Now let's go ahead and look at the roster. You have an Ultimate Death Knight and a Deliana. That's interesting. And you have, yeah, okay. So did you play for a while and then like leave and come back? Is that what happened? Because you have some old login champions? Or did you inherit the account from somebody? You've got an interesting roster. Elva is really interesting. She's going to provide us with some options here. By the way, if I'm asking you questions and you're trying to answer me, you should be answering me in Discord, not in the live chat, because I don't always read the live chat when I'm doing a takeover. Hey, Darren, good to see you. Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. I'm kind of curious. Okay, you do. All right. So when you have when you're doing clan boss, let's go ahead and take a look at your clan boss team. Hades wannabe. So you're doing about 10 million on Nightmare. And let's see what your team consists of. Okay. Okay. So we have options here. We have a lot of options here. I don't know how all of these champions are built. Let's take a look at some of them. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm assuming that you left the game, you came back, and you got Elva through the return path, the path, whatever it's called, that players get. You know, like you get an option to come back to the game, and there's like instead of the referral program here, there's that whatever it's called, it's path of something, and you get her at the end for $10 or $20. That's what you did. You got her this morning. Awesome. Okay. So she's going to be key to improving your clan boss team, right? Because she's going to give you a speed aura and she's going to give you a speed buff. She's also going to give you a block debuffs. So you get the increased speed, you get the block debuffs, and then you get the speed aura. She's also going to give you continuous heals, and she also gets this little passive, right? So she gets additional heals here. Now, there are several things that you want to think about. Like from a very basic standpoint for clan boss, there are several things that you want to think about. One is how much damage do you do per round, right? So how can you maximize the amount of damage you do per round? the second thing is, how can you extend the life of your team? Right? So how long can you last? And although those two things seem pretty basic, there's a lot of ways to improve your damage per round because it's based on the clan boss's turns, not yours. So the more turns you get, right, the more actions you get per action of clan boss, the better off you are. So this is where we talk about ratios, speed ratios for clan boss. Like, are you running a 1-to-1? Are you running a 2-to-1? Are you running a 4-to-3? Are you running a, 3-to-1? The more actions you get, generally, the more damage you're going to do. You're going to get more uptime on debuffs because you're going to get around to those debuffs more often. You're going to get more hits in. That's going to give you more procs of not just damage, but your War Master and Giant Slayer procs. So there are those kinds of things. So that's how, you want to hit hard, you want to have the right debuffs, and you want to have good speed. Those are 3 ways to improve the amount of damage you get per clan boss turn. The second thing you want to think about is extending your life. Now, one of the things about going fast is that you outrun your buffs unless you are speed tuned. So if you want to speed tune and figure out exactly where you to drop your buffs, then you won't outrun your buffs. But otherwise, you're likely to outrun your buffs, especially if you're running like Relentless on anybody, because then when you get an extra turn, you waste a turn of buff, right? But extending your life typically requires buffs. You need increased defense, strengthen, shields. You can do a block damage or an unkillable. Continuous heals help. Also, the debuff, the most important debuff is decrease attack. You can get a decrease attack on the boss. So we're looking to bring a lot of things here. And right now, if we just look at your team, what you've got is you've got some tankiness, right? You do have a decreased attack from Ultimate Death Knight. You have the reflect damage and damage mitigation from Geomancer, and then you have the heals from Scylla the Drakes. Unfortunately, that's really what you're bringing. You're bringing Ultimate Death Knight gives you a little bit of continuous heals and shields as well. So it's like there's some tankiness there, but it's not speed tuned, I don't think. So because you don't have a team set up, right? Because you would speed tune in here. And so that, probably does okay. But Ultimate Death Knight and Scylla the Drakes don't really help the damage at all, right? So here's the thing. You've got a nice poison combo with Frozen Banshee and Kale. And then you have the HP burn reflect thing with Geomancer. Now, typically, not always, but typically, Geomancer does better on teams with a lot of survivability. So you want to go a lot more turns. Poisoners also do pretty well, like in longer fights, right? Because the more turns they get, the more procs of the poison you get. But it's hard to stack both of those together, especially if you're using 3 champions to do it. So probably what I would end up doing is pulling one of these champions. And I would also probably I'd probably pull up Scylla the Drakes and we put in Elva. Elva's going to give you more survivability than Scylla the Drakes, and she increases your speed better than Scylla the Drake. Right? So this is actually just a straight upgrade. They're very similar champions, and Scylla the Drakes is awesome, by the way. But she's not awesome in this particular fight. Elva's better in this particular fight. Because you get the same passive heal that you get from Scylla the Drakes, plus you get the continuous heals from her A1, plus you get the increased speed buff, which makes everybody go faster. Scylla the Drakes gives an increased speed buff only to one target, whereas Elva gives it to everybody. And then you also have the block debuff, right? The cleanse and the block debuff. So this is just a straight up upgrade. Now, I think the next thing that you want to do is you want to probably try to bring in an ally protector or somebody who can give you more survivability. The question is, who do you pull out of this team? And that's a little bit tricky. I'm not really sure. What I would probably like to see in the long run is actually this. Because Rathalos pairs really well with Geomancer. Geomancer puts the HP burnout. That activates Rathalos's passives. He's going to hit very, very hard. Now, obviously, these are 2 force affinity damage dealers, so when you're going against spirit affinity, this could be a little bit tricky. So So in that case, you might pull these two and put these two back in. Right? So when you're going against Spirit Affinity, you use these two damage dealers. When you're going against any other affinities, you use these two damage dealers. I like that in the long run, but because Rathalos is level 50 right now, that's not optimal. Right? So we're still looking at this. Now, we want to decrease defense. You've got a decrease attack here, but you don't have a decreased defense, right? So there's no decreased defense there. So we're looking for a decreased defense champion. Now, the best one is probably, the one that I've seen that you have is probably Stagnite. Now, Stagnite's going to bring two things. He's going to bring a decreased attack and a decreased defense. So that's nice. And you're going to want him built because he's very valuable in dungeons and Doom Towers. And in fact, like, he's a phenomenal epic. I would say top 10 epic in the game. He booked, by the way? He's partially booked. Miscreated Monsters, partially booked. Hey, Uncle Dan. Thank you so much. We got 5 gifted memberships. Darth Malgus, Selena Feline, Aqua Puppy, Stuart Ridley, and Dareal Techniques. Congrats. Uncle Dan is a very generous viewer who often gives away memberships. And Uncle Dan, it's I appreciate you. I appreciate you very much. It's awesome. Abstract High. How you doing? Okay. Hey, Tunk. Yeah, so let's go. Okay. All right, so here we have... So this is the thing. Like, you see that this is a decreased defense champion, but you can't rely on this decreased defense. But this is an ally protector. And you get 3 turns uptime on a 4-turn cooldown. So we could look for something like this. We could work towards something like this. What this would give you is an ally protector, a decrease attack, consistent decrease attack, speed buffs, block damage, the HP burns, the reflect, and then the nuke. You know, that would be fine. If you're finding that this is not surviving, you could pull out Rathalos. You could try Ultimate Death Knight again, or you could bring in Doom Priest for additional cleanses. I'm going to try something I haven't tried in a while. I'm going to go check out the HH Optimizer. I do need to update it. So I'll get that updating while we do this. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So one of the difficulties with what we've got right now is that it's going to be difficult to speed tune a full team. Like, you're probably at least one champion away from really getting the speed tune that you want. But there are some speed tunes that are available. I do think that potentially there's a speed tune with High Katoon, where you could go like kind of glass cannon-ish, and I think you'd get I think it's a 2-to-1 speed tune. And, you know, you would do something like this, or maybe even something like this. In which case you're just going, we don't have a, I mean, this would be the decreased defense, right? This would be the decrease. Artak is the decreased attack. Rathalos is the decreased defense. You have the poison sensitivity. You have the HP burns. You have the, passive on Rathalos. And then the 2 speed champions get you to the 2-to-1 ratio. And then hopefully either the cleanse or the block debuffs handles everything that you need. So there may be a speed tune somewhere around there. That's a speed tune. I don't know that the speed tune is better than an untuned team. So, like, I think this is potentially better even untuned, or this is better untuned, or this is better untuned. You could just get more turns out, and you're going to be giving enough damage that it's not going to matter. You could even pull this out and go, like, real tanky, and see if just these 2 damage dealers can do enough, which, by the way, they probably can. If you can get 35 turns out of this team, you're going to be just fine. So part of the challenge here is figuring out who do you build, how do you build them, where do you put them in? I think the most important champion on your roster for right now is going to be Elva, in terms of, like, getting her up to speed and getting the next champion. And after that, I think it's going to be Stagnate. The great thing about these 2 champions is you're going to use them everywhere. Elva pairs really well with Scylla the Drakes when you want a slow and steady kind of, like, indestructible team that just is going to grind through content. You're going to be able to push dungeons. You're going to be able to push Doom Tower. You put these 2 teams, actually, this group of 4 right here is insanely strong, right? Or you could even do this. This group of 5 champions would be insanely strong. I like probably these 4 the best, and then you can throw in, a Geo when you need them. You can throw in extra tankiness. You can throw in a buff strip. You can throw in, AoE and more sustain. You could throw in a stun. You could throw in a slow and a decreased defense. Like, you could throw in another cleanser. You throw these 4 champions together, and all of a sudden you've got, a ton of 5th champions that can come in. This is a team that will clear Spider for you. It'll clear Dragon for you. It'll clear most of Doom. It should clear Doom Tower normal for you just fine, just these 4 champions. If you're going to go up against Ice Golem, you make a swap. You pull out Rathalos, and you just do something like, probably something like this, or this, or this, right? You go real tanky, let the HP burns do their work. That'll clear Ice Golem for you. And we're talking about, like, stage 25 at the very least, if not hard, right? Like, you have the champions now. Just these 3 champions, by the way, could probably do it. You don't need anybody else. For Ice Golem, you could just put in food, right? For Dragon, you could put in food. For Spider, probably you could put in food. Fire Knight's going to be different. You're going to need something else for Fire Knight. But so I do think Elves is incredibly important for your roster. And then I think Stagnite brings a really consistent drop defense, which you don't have. But he simultaneously brings a slow on his A1 and a decreased attack. So he's going to be important for Fire Knight. So again, you maybe go like Elva here, and then now you've got your slow. So probably something like this. And then based on what you've got, maybe like this. That might be your Fire Knight team for now. That's going to give you enough hits to get through. It's going to give you a little bit of turn meter control. You don't really have great turn meter control. You could like, depending on if you want to build Rhonda or not. I don't know. Is Rhonda booked? Rhonda's not booked. I don't know that I would take her to 6 stars. Yeah, okay. So maybe not Rhonda. So maybe you just go like Apothecary. I mean, you could stick with Geo, because since you don't have that much turn meter control, the Fire Knight's going to get a turn, and so then his Reflect is going to help break the shield. And so this is probably tanky enough to survive a couple of hits, and that's going to give you what you need. You're going to get your slow on there. Geomancer is going to help with the turn meter depletion a little bit, right? Because he's got the 100% turn meter. Is it a steal or just reduction? I forget. Fully depletes it, so it's just a turn meter deplete. So that's your Fire Knight team. There are all your dungeons. So it's like, as the reason I'm thinking about this, you're asking about Clan Boss, but the reason I'm thinking about this is because you want your roster to be as effective as possible in as many places as possible. Right? So if you start thinking about what your dungeon teams are going to look like, you can start thinking about what your Clan Boss team is going to look like. You can start thinking about what your Doom Tower team is going to look like, and your Hydra team is going to look like. And you're like, can I do that with, say, like 7 champions or 8 champions, as opposed to like 10 or 12, right? And then you have to you have fewer champions that you need to build. So the great thing about like Artak, right? Artak is great for Doom Tower. He's great for every dungeon except Fire Knight. I usually don't use him in Fire Knight, although you could. And then he's great for Hydra. You can use him in Clan Boss, but he's not great for Clan Boss. He's kind of like Scylla. He's a little bit better than Scylla Drakes for Clan Boss. Like Scylla is okay, but not great. She's great everywhere else. Artak is kind of like that. He's great everywhere else, but not Clan Boss, but he's okay. He's a little bit better than Scylla the Drakes for Clan Boss. He's got the HP burn. He's got the decreased attack. He's got the HP burn activations. So that's all good. Plus, I think he's fully booked, right? Mostly. You need to get this book on him. Elva, by the way, should eventually be booked. The most important books here are on her A2. All right, so let's look at the Hell Hades optimizer and see if there's a team that it recommends. All right, so let's go to Team Optimizer. Yeah, so you can see Elva coming in the top teams here, right? Ugo's bringing you that drop defense, and you only have 2 damage dealers. So this is more common, right? Where you would go with probably 2 damage dealers. Now, Geomancer is kind of interesting because he's sort of tanky as a damage dealer. So sometimes you bring in a 3rd damage dealer. Like here, you can see Frozen Banshee, Geomancer, and Blade Master. But again, I think this team would be improved by getting Frozen Banshee out of this team, right? And bringing in more sustain. We have all the champions that we've been talking about. Like literally all the champions that we've been talking about are on these teams. Apothecary, Artak, Haikatoon, Stagnite, Miscreated Monster. Right? So these are the champions that are going to improve your damage and extend the life of your team. By the way, this is against Ultra Nightmare. So here's like, this is 21 million against Ultra Nightmare, which is really a 4 key. So it's not quite there yet. And again, I don't think Ugo is the champion you want here. Like imagine swapping in Stagnite for this comp, right? And then Rathalos for Frozen Banshee. So you'd go like with the damage kind of like here, Rathalos and Geomancer. You pull the Frozen Banshee, you bring in the Stagnite, which is going to give you that consistent decrease attack. This does not have it. This top one has Ultimate Death Knight as a decrease attack, but Stagnite's going to be more consistent. It's also 2 different affinities. You're going to get a backup decrease attack, so you're much more likely to have decrease attack up all the time. You get the shields, you get the drop defense from Stagnite, you get the Geomancer. Now you've got the HP burn, the reflect, and you've got Rathalos, right? That would be, I think that's the team. So let's just set up a team here for you. So like theoretically moving forward, I think you want this. I do think you want Geo. I think you want Rathalos. I think you want Stagnite. And then this last spot becomes kind of interesting. I think for you right now, the easiest one is going to be Ultimate Death. I think this is the team. I don't think you have to speed tune it. I think literally you can just get these champions. Let me actually. All right. That's easier for you to see. So I think that this team here is a really good starter team, right? Because this gives you a lot of redundancy. You've got 2 drop defense champions. You've got 2 decrease attack champions. So you're going to be really consistent there. And they're in 2 different affinities all the time. You have the shields and continuous heals from Ultimate Death Knight. That's going to extend your life. You've got the reflect damage and the damage mitigation from Geomancer. That extends your life. You've got the continuous heals and passive heals from Elva. That's going to extend your life. You've got the cleanse and the block debuffs. That's going to solve hopefully the slow and the stun for you at least some of the time. You've got the HP burns and then the Rathalos passive. Now for this particular team, like if we're looking at your champions, I don't think Rathalos is booked for you either, right? Okay. Rathalos does not need to be booked to be valuable. As far as damage dealers are go, he actually gets a good chunk of his damage out like anyway, because his passive doesn't require books. And in terms of like obviously cooldowns would help, but this would be the last one to book. This, like, I would book everybody else. I'd book Elva first before I booked Rathalos. But this is where Rathalos is going to help you in that wave content, because Artak is already mostly booked, and Artak and Rathalos make a perfect duo for wave content, because you got an AoE HP burn plus HP burn activation, and then you've got that nuke, the AoE nuke with the passive there. So I think these two pair up really well, and they're both going to pair up really well with Elva. And then you've got your Wukong, you've got your Geomancer, you got your Syl, you got all these other champions that you can throw in the mix there depending on what you need. But I just think that those 3 champions plus Syl of the Drakes, those 4 champions are going to be the core of everything that you need to do. You're just gonna grind content. It's going to be like slow and steady, and you're going to push so far. So let's go look at your dungeons for a second. Like, let's see. I always look at Dragon first when I'm just curious about where. Okay, so you're a Dragon 20, and let's look at this team. Okay, which is not bad. But let's go ahead and okay, let's take out Ugo and do this. Already you're better, right? Because you have the cleanse, so the poisons, the stuns, all that stuff you don't have to worry about. You got more healing, right? Because Ugo doesn't provide a lot of healing. She's got a mini cleanse and a mini heal. You've got that consistent revive. You don't have to worry about the weird revive from Ugo. What you're losing is a drop defense here. But drop defense is less important, right? Drop defense like speeds things up, but it doesn't improve your chances of success. So this is really good. Now, like, we start moving forward again and we think, okay, how else can we speed this up? This is going to be faster. Rathalos hits harder than Kale. Rathalos has the passive that gets activated with Artak or Geomancer. You know, you've got this. Now you start running into stat issues. You have wave problems. You bring in Scylla the Drakes. Why Scylla the Drakes? AoE stun. Another slow on the A1. Another heal, passive heal. This becomes a really tanky team that just can't be stopped. Slow and steady. This will take you to stage 10 hard mode. This team would take you to stage 10 hard mode. In fact, you could pull this. You could pull. Yeah, you could definitely pull him, and you could put Stagnite in it. This would be good too, because now you've got that AoE drop defense back, right? You lose the shields and the continuous heals, but you don't need them. You've already got 2 healers. You got enough sustain. You've got 2 revivers. Somebody might die. Rathalos might die. Stagnite might die. Who cares? They come back. This will get you to stage 25 hard mode, no problem. In fact, these 5 champions will also get you through stage probably 10 hard mode of Spider. You know, probably. You might want a second. Nah, you probably don't even need a second. Like, Rathalos is going to be the damage dealer on top of Artak. This will probably clear Spider 10 hard for you. This will probably, like, you'd probably pull these champions. And, like, these 3 could clear stage 10 hard mode of Ice Golem for you. You don't need anybody else. You know, but if you were looking for somebody else, you could do like this. That would be really good for Ice Golem. You know, or even that. So you got 3 stage 10 hard mode teams solved with the same champions you're using everywhere else. You know, so if you think Clan Boss again, it's the same champions. The one thing is probably not Artak, right? Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it. This team, if you want to try this team, right? But you don't have Stagnite and you don't have Rathalos ready to go. So you need to run 60s. Try running Artak. I'd probably go Artak and probably do this. So now you're going to have a very consistent decrease attack. You're going to get HP burns. Artak and Geomancer sometimes bump into each other, but it's not hugely important. You could try that. You could try that, or you could try this. Either one will probably get you more damage than what you're currently getting. Let's go take a look at Elva and see if we can build her out for you. Hey, son. Son has joined the channel. Hey, welcome. Good to see you, buddy. If you need any help, don't be afraid to ask this guy. He's here to help. All right. So for Elva, let's start with some speed boots. You don't need accuracy on Elva. She has no debuffs. I like this a lot. That's really nice. Now, let's look for HP percentage and defense percentage boots and gloves with speed substat. I would try these on. Okay, I like those. Give her a little additional survivability. That's always good. So she's got a defense, 2 HP. Okay, HP and defense. Yeah, that's really nice. I like to split them up on supports. get a little bit more defense, get a little bit more HP. But you could certainly go double HP, right? Double HP tends to be better than double defense. The only time you go double defense is on a defensive base damage deal. Otherwise, HP is the tankier of the two stats. Remember, there's a lot of ignore defense out there, but there's no such thing as ignore HP. So, so now we're looking for these three, and all we really care about is a substat of speed. Let's start with the immortal pieces and see if there is a good, fast immortal piece. Let's look at that, and then I want to look for speed. If we can get the other pieces of speed. We don't have a shield in speed, unfortunately. What about divine speed? Do you have any divine speed? Is there any more righteous? Not really. I mean, stone skin's not bad, especially if you have good stone skin. You can do this, but unless you can get to a 4-piece set bonus, it's not, and it's not critical for PvE anyway. Oh, you can do this. Resilience is not bad. Where was the immortal? The immortal. The reason I'm keeping this because it's a 5-star piece, but we might switch to a shield there depending on what do we have here. Let's roll this up. See how this does. Nice. All right, come back to HP percentage is fine. That's nice actually. All right. Ouch. A little bit much on the silver there. Uh-oh. That's good. He is good. You can take this up to 16 when you're ready. And what I really care about is speed on see, revenge can be really nice on her because you get extra continuous heals out, but we want speed. So if we get even a single roll into speed here, I think we'd probably take this one. And you know, the attack, HP, everything plays, so there you go. All right, so here you've got an Elva who's running at 241. 2.4k defense is a little bit low. You're going to get more out of this out of this. Sorry, this is going to go up to 50%. So you should, once you glyph it out and you get, get this. Well, let's just take that at 8. I was hoping to roll into these percentages, but we missed the percentages, unfortunately. But you still have more rolls there. Perfect. It's a pretty nice build. Right? 241 speed, 2.5k defense, 46,000 HP. And this is not glyphed. You can still max out, your helmet, your shield. You can get a 5-star shield here. This is perfect. This is exactly where you want her. 240 speed is beautiful. If you can push this up to like 260, 270 over time, that's what you're going to want to do. This banner should be swapped for an HP banner or a defense banner with more speed on it. You don't care about the attack percentage. So when you get that, you go ahead and make this swap. So, this feels good. Now you need to get her masteries done. Right? You're going to need to get her masteries. And if you're going to put her in Clan Boss, you're going to want to run her with War Master. So typically what I do is I go offense and support. You can go down the healer side. You don't need accuracy. Remember, you don't need you don't need charged focus. You don't need Swarm Spider. You can decide whether or not you want to get around to Lore of Steel. Now, here's the thing. You cannot use Cycle of Magic if you are going to speed tune her into a Clan Boss team. You cannot do this. If you're not going to speed tune her into a Clan Boss team, you can use Cycle of Magic. So let's say you put her in a Clan Boss team and it's untuned and you want to use Cycle of Magic first, that's fine. But then if you ever want to speed tune her later, you need to take that off because you can't change when the speed buff comes out, right? The increased speed has to come out at the particular moment. So in order to get to Lore of Steel, what you'll have to do is you will have to go through you have to go through Swarm Spider, which is like a throwaway, right? So you might not run Lore of Steel. So you would just come down the left hand side, and end probably with, sorry, you can't do lasting gifts. If you're going to speed tune, you can't do lasting gifts either. So, maybe Spirit Haste, which is not bad for a reviver. That's actually very good for a reviver. So it would be something like Steadfast into Lay on Hands, Healing Savior, Merciful Aid, Spirit Haste. That's probably what you would run. And then in offense, you do the rest in offense. If you wanted to pick up Exalted Death, you could. And then you could come through here through Swarm Spider and pick up Lore of Steel. And that would be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this Clan Boss team. I'm kind of interested in seeing, let's make sure everybody's built. He's built. He's built. He's built. Okay. Let's just see how this team does based on what you've been doing about 10 million per key. Now, remember, Elva has no masteries, right? She has no books. So I'm not expecting a huge improvement here, but let's just see how this team does. So you've got the weaken out there from Geomancer, the HP burn. There's the decrease attack. That's going to be important. We want that consistently up. We've actually got 2 decrease attack champions because our tackles will have a decrease attack. And what you're looking here is the damage, which will ramp up a little bit over time. But you want the damage per boss turn, right? So right now it looks like we're about, so you think of it like when the boss goes, right? So it looks like it's about 600k per turn. We're going to get to about a little bit less, somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 per turn. Which means we need to get at least 20 turns to hit what you're already hitting. You don't want to rely on the revives too much. You know, Scylla the Drakes may be a bad call here. She might not be necessary at all. So we could potentially pull her out and bring in Frozen Banshee just to get more damage in there. Because that, you know, basically what Scylla the Drakes is bringing is heals. And we already have plenty of heals with Elva and UDK. So we probably don't need Scylla the Drakes here. I'm just going as tanky as possible. That was my goal. Yeah, so we're actually under 500k at this point. But this is not bad. Mars attack movie. Oh, Sean, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Geo and Artak don't work great together. I wanted to have the consistent decrease attack, but maybe it's not worth it. So we'll tweak this, I think. I think I'm going to tweak it right now. Let's not. We don't need to wait for that to play out. I like the new Wixwell comp. I haven't seen how it's actually built yet. I just haven't had time to watch any videos. But if it's if it builds towards an infinity comp like Brogni does, like if he can fulfill that role, that's going to be nice. Because not everybody has Brogni. I think Wixwell might end up being like Brogni 2.0, which would be kind of cool. All right, let's try a different team. Let's try going here. We're going to do this and this. Yeah, let's not bring Artak. Let's let Geomancer be the only HP burner. So let's go more damagey. Let's go ahead and bring in these two. Let's see how that works. All right, so now we're guaranteed to get the reflect from Geomancer because we don't have to worry about the HP burn conflict. We're still going to have a decreased attack from UDK. Now, the issue there with the decreased attack is, are we fast enough? Are we fast enough to get it to come around? So he's going to land it decently consistently. We still have the weaken out, which is nice. We're going to get more poisons out. We get the poison sensitivity out. So this is a lot more damage per turn. This is almost double the damage per turn. Yeah, I think Scylla the Drakes was weak, and Artak interfered with Geomancer too much. I think this is going to get a lot more damage. Now, it's not going to survive as long. You can already see that, like, everybody's taking chunks of damage here, whereas before they weren't taking any damage. But I like the fact that UDK takes the stun. Pretty consistent. Oh, he's also got, I didn't realize he had Brimstone. So that's going to do a lot of damage too. This is a lot more damage per turn. Now this is basically the team you were running, except you didn't have Elva in. You had Scylla the Drakes in. And Elva is such a huge step up from Scylla the Drakes in terms of clan boss, right? Because that increased speed and the block debuffs, like those are just so much more important in the clan. Like those are just so much more important in the clan boss fight. You know, Sill's A1 doesn't play, her A2 doesn't play. The only thing that works is her passive. Whereas for Elva, all of her skills literally play, right? I mean, neither one of them really uses the revive all that much, but that's okay. But here we didn't have the decrease attack up. So if you speed tune this so that UDK never gets stunned, like he'll take the stun, but he won't actually get stunned because of the block debuffs, then you're going to have more consistent uptime on the decrease attack, because this is what, you know, we just got hit twice hard because we didn't have the decrease attack up. And now we missed it because we had a full debuff bar. That's rough. So somebody's going to die this next turnaround, probably. Yep, there we go. But we're already over where you were doing before. So we need to get to 13.5 million, 13.3 million to get a 3-key nightmare. Because right now you are on a 4-key nightmare. So we're going to get to the 3-key nightmare. We need to get to 20 million to get to a 2-key nightmare. Ah, damn it. Sorry. I didn't mean to use up your key. But 14 million on the nose. So not bad. Not bad. I think that once you get Elva fully booked and masteries are going to be really important. She'll add, I don't know, maybe she'll add 1 million damage. Of her own damage, but she'll probably extend the life of the fight like another turn or two. Just because she'll get back around to her continuous heals more often, her speed buff more often, you know, like she'll probably add a couple of million just from increasing the speed of the team. And that'll extend the life of the team too, because the uptime on the decrease attack is really important. I think probably the next adjustment to make is to bring in Stagnate. So I would probably, out of the team that you just did, I would probably pull the Kale and I would put in Stagnate. That's going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to give you a second decrease attack, so you should have 100% uptime or close to 100% uptime on decrease attack. That's really important for extending the life of your team. The second thing is that brings in the decreased defense. That's going to increase your damage per turn, right? He's also tankier than Kale, so he'll like be easier to live. And then that team will probably get you your 2-key nightmare just fine. Moving forward, you want to think about Rathalos, and you also want to consider, do you want to bring in an ally protection? If you're going to bring in Miscreated Monster, who is a very good champion, he's a very good clan boss champion, he's a very good all-around champion, this is a great champion. And he's fully booked. So he's got a shield, he's got a self-heal, he's got an ally protect. The ally protect is up for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, so you want him on a 4-to-3 ratio. You need to speed tune with Miscreated Monster. If you're going to bring in Miscreated Monster, you need to make sure that you have the gear to keep him alive. You might want to think about putting a Guardian set on somebody else. So in this particular case, if you're gonna bring him in, you might want to put like a Guardian set on Ultimate Death. That might be good. And then you could put Miscreated Monster maybe in a Stalwart set. So Stalwart reduces damage from AoE attacks. This is going to be pretty important for him. And in fact, if you have any, doesn't look like you do. But if you have any of the, what's this set? Defiant. So if you end up with any Defiant gear, this is also good to add to that Stalwart set. So you can actually get 45% damage reduction from AoE attacks, plus the extra defense. So that can be really nice. If you don't have that, you could think about an Immortal set with the Stalwart set, or a Resilient set, or you know, kind of depends. Kind of depends on what you. I mean, Righteous isn't bad. You know, Fortitude isn't bad. Perception maybe. Resilience maybe. You know, depending on what stats you need on him. But if you get him tanky, because here's the thing about Miscreated Monster. If you look at his, let's actually look at him. Such a good champion. Such a good champion. But you can see how low his defense is. He's got a really nice HP pool, but he's got really low defense for a tank. So he can be squishy when that ally protection is up. So you need some way to keep him alive. You need multiple ways of keeping him alive. Elva will get him extra heals, right? You'll have Ultimate Death Knight will give him extra shields potentially. So you do have some ways. You have the decrease attack out there. So he's not going to just fall over. But as soon as he dies, the run is over, right? Like as soon as he goes down, the next AoE will wipe out the rest of your team. So you need to make sure that he is as tanky as you can possibly build him. And then you need several ways to keep him alive. So I would definitely think about Ultimate Death Knight in a Guardian set. Now, let's see if you have Guardian set pieces. Okay, you don't have that much there. So Guardian can be farmed from Griffin boss in Doom Tower. Yeah, I don't see any Guardian at all. Now, Griffin is Griffin in the current rotation? I don't think he is. Let me double check. Doom Tower rotation. No, he is. Okay. So he is in this rotation. So typically in this rotation, you farm Dark Fae. But where you are in the game right now, you don't need Dark Fae. Dark Fae is like better than Savage gear kind of gear. It's, you know, lethal gear. So it's a damage dealing set. But what you need is survivability. So get in there and farm the Griffin. Now this is where like all of this synergy starts to come through in a free-to-play account. Think about what we were just talking about. What's your go-to team for Doom Tower? Let's get Ugo out of there. Let's get Rathalos out of there. Let's bring in Elva, right? With this team, I would probably think about Wukong. Because Wukong's going to add something really nice, right? He's going to add a buff strip, which is going to be great. You're going to have a lot of survivability. You could also honestly probably pull out Ultimate Death Knight here, and you could put in somebody like Deliana, who's like tanky and gives you some survivability, but brings more utility and more damage there. But you can kind of like play around with those champions. Artak is your primary damage dealer for wave content for Doom Tower. You just need to keep him going, and you're going to be fine. You've got two revivers. You've got Wukong, who's got a self-revive. You've got Ultimate Death Knight, who's protecting everybody. You've got Artak, who gets that decreased attack out there and burns through everybody. This team should, let's see, is Wukong built? This team should cruise, like, and shouldn't probably lose. And if you do lose, you can just go ahead and swap one champion and you probably just keep going. This is where the Scylla of the Drakes, Elva, Autumnborn duo just end up shining, right? It's not fast. You don't care about fast. You're not even level 60 account yet, right? Like you care about success rate. You do have to worry about more two Macabres because they block revives. But this is going to be, you know, this is going to be a team that's just going to churn through. You're never going to, you're going to go right through Doom Tower normal mode. In fact, Now that I'm thinking about it. Let's just try this in hard. See how. I don't know if you have the stats yet. Elva is fine. Elva does have the stats. I don't know if everybody has the stats. Wukong needs accuracy for a buff strip. If he doesn't have it, then it's not worth bringing him in. And I would probably bring in somebody else who, like Deliana, or you bring in Kale, but somebody who's tankier and is going to provide you with a little bit. Oh. All right, so Elva died. So here's the thing: was Scylla the Drake's going to die here? He did die. I could have manualed that and it would have worked. Let me just see some. Yeah, I would probably stay with what you've got right now. So if you are going to run Relentless on Scylla the Drakes, it needs to be fast Relentless. You need to be over 200 speed or the Relentless doesn't make sense. Right? Because you still need to be ahead of the speed of the enemies, and typically you want to be able to lap them. So like you usually shoot for around 210 speed, upwards of that. Now, you have like this gauntlet's not great, right? So this doesn't have any speed on it. This is a good piece though. So it's like, all right, let's look at that. And what we want to see is if there is something in either, I don't think we have Relentless, right? Anything good in Relentless. So we need speed substats. So we could run this. It's not a bad piece. And if it rolls into speed, yeah, it didn't roll into speed. So that probably would be better on somebody else. But let's see if we have perception here. Don't. 241 is a good amount of accuracy. Might be a little bit stuck here at the moment. But what I would say is, you know, try to shoot for like 210, 220 speed in Relentless. If you can't get there with Relentless, you could take her out of Relentless, put her in like all perception, maybe 2 perception sets in a speed set or 2 perception sets in a righteous set or something, and try to get her to like 250 or 260, right? Because then that's going to also work for you. Make sure you have the accuracy. You want more than 225 accuracy. You actually want to try to push her accuracy higher if you're going to use her in Doom Tower. try to get her up to like 350, but that's a longer term goal. So I would say, you know, go ahead and push this speed if you want to keep her in Relentless. Go ahead and start using your use your glyphs. Yeah, it doesn't feel like you have good enough Relentless here for her. I would probably pull her out of Relentless, and I would look for Perception and Speed or Righteous. LFC, another 5 gifted channel memberships. Thank you so much. Super Mew Kitty Cat, Shock, hey, Pavel Grabowski, Kirk, and Mitty, all gifted memberships by LFC 1892. Thank you so much. That's very cool. I love it when the horde grows. I love it when the horde grows. The horde is growing. So that's awesome. But so what I would say here is probably her Relentless isn't good enough. It's probably not good enough. This piece is like tempting, right? But without a speed substat on it, it's like marginal. The boots are nice. The boots are actually a very nice piece. You should hold on to this piece, put this on a piece where somebody can use it. These two pieces are fairly trash. I know this one rolled double accuracy and a crit rate, so it's like, again, marginal. Basically, Relentless pieces that don't have a speed substat are almost useless. Because the whole point is to get more turns. And you can get more turns out of just having faster champions. So like right now you're running at 166, is that it? 166? So imagine running at 220 instead. You're like, here you get 18% chance of an extra turn. But if you go from, call it 160 to 240, you've increased your speed by 50%. You're getting 50% more turns. Right? Like, it's much more valuable. Like, I get it. You want the extra turns, you want the extra procs, but it's like speed is just a way to get more turns anyway. Plus, you have the advantage of going first. So, you know, if I'm just looking for speed substats, like I don't even care about the sets that I'm in. Like, let's look at this. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful piece for Soul Hydrate. Beautiful piece for Soul Hydrate. Double speed, defense, main stat, resistance and defense on it. That's great, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I like the shield. I think the shield is awesome already. So let's go and look at these 3 pieces. Let's see if there's anything in speed. Maybe something equipped. We don't have speed. We can look at divine speed. We could look at resilience. We could look at righteous. We could look at accuracy. HP. Not bad. We'll go with the accuracy for now. And then let's go ahead and look at that. And we want speed and accuracy. Kind of nice. That would be very nice if it wasn't on Geo. All right, let's do that instead. right? So you look at this swap, we've gone from 166 speed to 213 speed. So in terms of like the 18% extra turns are different than just extra speed, right? They mechanically work differently. But we can just kind of do an assessment. How close are they? It's like, okay, well, 18%, call it 20% of a chance to proc another turn, right? Means 20% more turn. So that's like 20% more speed. So that would be 32 speed. That would take us up to 198. So we're actually faster than that, right? We are 15 speed past that point with this build. We still have glyphs to go, right? But this accuracy-wise, we lost 2 accuracy. We'll get that back on glyphs. You know, we did lose some defense, but again, this still has to go to 16, so we'll get most of that defense back. You know, you're going to get more HP back. You've got more HP. So from a tanky standpoint, I think she's going to end up tankier. She's going to end up faster. She's going to end up just as accurate, maybe a little bit more accurate. You know, and now the relentless pieces are freed to maybe put together somebody else's relentless set a little bit better. This is going to be better for Scylla the Drake. You know, so this kind of setup. I think this is worth the swap right now. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and swap. I know I'm using up all your silver. I apologize. So now we go back to Doom Tower. Let's just check Wukong first. His accuracy is low. He's not booked. He has mastery. Maybe we pull him in honor of... Let me just Kale. Let me just bring in Kale. So again, Wukong would need the same accuracy that we're talking about, at least a minimum of 225, preferably get him up over 300 for Doom Tower, like 350, 355. That's usually where you're going to need to be for the highest, you know, levels of Doom Tower hard. So now with more speed from Scylla Drake, she's going to get around to her skills more often. She's going to get that stun out, you know, at the beginning, which before the enemy goes, which is crucial. You've got your Kale, who's providing more damage and more survivability than the Wukong. More survivability because he's got the lifesteal set. Wukong's actually very survivable because as long as somebody on the team is alive, Wukong is not dead, right? He'll come back. So Wukong's actually one of the most survivable damage dealers in the game in that regard, because you can just put him with one really, really tanky teammate and he doesn't die. But yeah, so what I was talking about was like the synergy. You've built a dungeon team and a Doom Tower team. The Doom Tower team is going to get you to that Griffin. You farm the Griffin. You want to farm the hard Doom Tower Griffin so you can get the legendary forge pieces. You get the legendary forge pieces. That's going to allow you to make the Guardian set we were talking about. You put the Guardian set on this UDK. That not only makes him more survivable, it makes the team more survivable. It's going to make your miscreated monster more survivable. Now you build miscreated monster. You put him into the team. You get him in the stalwart set. Maybe you get him in an immortal set with that stalwart set, or, you know, a resilient set or something. Now he adds that survivability back to your clan boss team. That's going to allow you to push clan boss further. Plus, miscreated monster is really good in waves. He's going to come back in here to Doom Tower. He and UDK with Scylla the Drakes, Artak, and Elva will clear basically every stage that doesn't have a block revive on, right? And even some of those block revives you're going to be able to get through because you've got the stun from Scylla the Drake. So if you can stun the Mortu Macabre, if you can keep him provoked with UDK, you might be able to get through the Mortu Macabres. The Folies are going to be tricky. The Folies are actually going to be harder for you than the the more two Macabres, because Foley can't be CC'd. When he gets CC'd, he cleanses the CC and he automatically goes, and he also has a block revive. So against the Foley waves, you're going to have to figure something else out. You're going to have to go with more damage. You're going to have to bring in, you can turn meter decrease those. That's an option. But you're going to have to bring in your Rathalos, right? You're going to need to blow up those Foleys. And there are a couple of waves where more two Macabre and Foleys are on the same team. There's at least 2 waves that I know of. So like those are going to be tricky. You're going to have to manual those waves to get through. But I think that's, that's going to, so the cycle continues, right? Guardian set improves your miscreated monster improves your clan boss, but also has an AoE stun, is great for wave content. It's going to push your faction crypts. Faction crypts are going to get further. That's going to give you more perception gear. You're going to get that perception gear on this Sill of the Drakes. That's going to increase her speed and her accuracy as you go up in Doom Tower. Going to improve your Doom Tower again. That's going to improve the gear collection. It's like, it's this huge cycle. Everything leans on everything else, right? And so that's where, when we're looking at that roster and we're saying, what can we do with 6, 7, 8 champions? Right? And then how can we optimize those champions and keep making them better? What's a champion that we need to add to this mix to give us something that we don't have? We don't have that AoE drop defense. That's where Stagnite comes in. He's one of the best. Like if you don't have Deacon, I think your other 2 options for best decreased defense champions in the game or epics are Madame Ceres and Stagnite, right? After that, you have Duke the Pierced and Ugo, right? But I do think those are a step down from Stagnite and Madame Ceres, right? So Madame Ceres and Stagnite are better than Duke the Pierced and Ugo. Now you have Ugo, but the problem with Ugo is she doesn't bring anything else. She brings nothing else to your team in terms of, like, outside of Hydra. She's not really that valuable, right? Like Madame Ceres is a step up from Ugo because Madame Ceres has the buff strip on top of the block debuffs, on top of the decreased defense, right? So plus she's got fears, she's got shields, she's got all sorts of stuff. Like she's void affinity, so she doesn't weak hit. So she's clearly a step up from Ugo. And I think Stagnite with his A1 slow and his decrease AoE decrease attack, that's a step up from Ugo as well. So I think Stagnite's a must build for you, based on where your roster is currently. Now this is looking a little shaky here. We might have to manually target. This is where Wukong would help. Wukong would be awesome here if we had Wukong's accuracy, right? Because Wukong would be strong affinity and would be able to remove these block debuffs buffs, which would allow Artak to then get his HP burns on. Because with the cleanses and the block debuffs, he can't. So this is going to be a hard wave. And sometimes, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can think about, again, this is a 5 champion team, but you iterate on it, right? So we're like, okay, what we want to do is we want to do this, but maybe also we want to get Artak out of there because Artak is weak affinity, right? He's magic affinity, and we want to look for a force affinity, void affinity, or preferably a spirit affinity champion that can come in and do work here. So this would be 2 spirit affinity champions stepping in, right? Now there's not a lot of damage here. Wukong has to bring the damage here. Another option might be this, right? By the way, if you get Deliana in a stun set, she can do a ton of work for you. I really like her in a stun set because she's got an AoE A1 and an AoE A3. So she does mostly AoEs. You can even turn off her A2 if you want to. And then she's just all AoEs, and that's going to give you a lot of stuns, and that helps in Doom Tower as well. Another option would be to bring in this guy, right? So with the Wukong, even if he's unbuilt, even if he's unbooked, he's got masteries. This guy needs accuracy. He should probably be in, if you're not building him in Savage, you need him in Perception. And when I say savage, it could be instinct. You know what I mean? Like you could put him in instinct, that would be fine. But my point is, if you're not going like nuke Wukong, you need accuracy. And even if you are going nuke Wukong, you should go accuracy here. So, you know, again, we need more perception gear. So that's where that cycle comes back around, right? We need to get this stuff, which means we need to get into these, you know, we need to push up to 13 minimum. Now, we did talk about, you know, early on with this takeover, you're kind of a casual player. And that's fine. Don't think there's a time limit on any of these, right? It's just that if you don't play a lot of hours per day, you always want to be thinking about getting the most out of the time that you do play, and don't look to build a big roster. If you are a casual player, the worst thing that you can do is get caught in the trap of thinking champions are the way to progress, right? Champions are not the way to progress. Like more champions. I need more legendaries. No. You're casual. What you need is 10 champions. That's it. You can play the entire game with 10 champions. You need 10 really good champions, maybe 12, right? Optimize. So every time you come in here, think, out of every 2 or 3 days that I play, can I improve the performance of one of my 10 to 12 champions? Can I get closer to optimizing my 10 to 12 champions? I pick up a legendary skill tome. I drop it in a champion I drop it in my Artak. Why? Well, I need this cooldown. Artak is incredibly valuable. He's incredibly versatile. I use him everywhere. Let's get him maxed out, right? Okay, what about epics? Well, let's just get this guy fully booked. 6 more books, 6 stars. That's doable. Anybody can do that. You play an hour a day. You can do this in a couple of weeks, right? Maybe less, maybe like 8 days, 10 days. You're going to have Stagnite, 6 stars, fully ascended, full mastery, full books. That's going to push your progress. So as a free-to-play player, I guarantee you do not need a big roster. You can do 98% of the content in this game with like a dozen champions. And you have the champions. You literally don't have to pull another champion. I would love to see like a Deacon Armstrong on your roster, or I would love to see, but he's not critical. You actually have what you need. So maybe forget Deacon. Who do you really need? You don't. Like a Demitha would allow you to do a 3-to-1 hand boss speed tune unkillable. So that would be nice. But other than that, like you really don't need much. I think it'd be nice to get your Vizix. Your Vizix will be helpful in a lot of places. Your Vizix will be helpful in Hydra and in Doom Tower and other places. So Vizix will be good. And that's like it. That's all you need. That's all you need for 98% of the content. You know, Sand Devil's Necropolis is going to be a little bit tricky. You'll probably get stalled out at like 15. Iron Twins, you're in pretty good shape. You're actually in pretty good shape, but you might get stalled out on certain affinities. But you have a Geomancer, you have a Stagnite. Those are critically important. You have those two. I actually think, yeah, you might be okay on Iron Twins. You might be able to clear stage 15 all affinities. I think you're okay in Shogun's Grove. Elva's hugely important in Shogun's Grove. You have your Doom Priest as a secondary cleanser who's actually going to be really valuable moving forward, I think. So, you know, you're going to end up with like 12 champions that are just going to clear this entire game for you. Now, that's not as exciting, right? Like, that's not as much fun when you're like, oh man, you know, I want to pull a Duchess, I want to pull a Kymar, I want to pull a Seer, I want to pull a, you know, like I want to pull all these champions because they're fun to build and great. But like, philosophically, like from a strategic standpoint, looking at this roster from the top down, you're thinking, I don't play enough. I don't play enough to build 25 champions a year, right? 25 6-star champions a year. I don't play enough. You can do that. There are players who can do that. But you might be building 10 to 12 a year. Maybe, right? If you spend a little bit of money, you can kind of speed that up a little bit. You know, so it's like if you're just a free-to-play player, like completely free-to-play, you might build like 6 to 8 champions a year. Like it could be that low with a low activity. But with, you know, you spend, you could double that. But you got Elva's so crazy good. Geo's so crazy good. You know, like Artak's so crazy good. Got what you need. All right, so that was a little bit improvement on your clan boss. I know this was a clan boss takeover, but realistically, this is an early game roster, you know, and that's where the takeover needs to happen. I don't think you have to build Miscreated Monster, by the way. I know we talked about that, but I was just giving you sort of a pathway that you could go down. I do think Artak needs his books. I think Rathalos and Artak are so good together, and Geo and Rathalos are so good together that I do think Rathalos should be probably the one damage dealer you really invest in. Like, I don't think I would invest in Rhonda. I don't think I would invest in Magnar. I think Rathalos is enough. Everywhere. He's going to be enough. Everywhere except where he's weak affinity. And when he's weak affinity, you've got your Kale, your Frozen Banshee, and your Sun Wukong. So, you know, you got your Artak. You're going to be covered. You don't need to worry about building another damage dealer for a long, long time. And this is your drop defense champion. And it's your only drop defense champion. And he's like the third best epic drop defense champion in the game. You've got your weekend. You're so set. You're so set. The account's great. The account's in a great position. It's just like, you know, all those synergies that we were talking about. So do you have any questions? You are welcome. You haven't done a Hydra run in months? You have a Hydra team. This is probably the Hydra team I would start with, just to check it out. So you have 2 cleansers, which I think is going to be useful. You have a block debuffs and then the passive cleanse from Doom Priest. You've got the 2 AoE decrease attacks. That's really important for the Head of Wrath. You have the buff strip and the block debuffs, which is really important for the Head of Mischief. Unfortunately, in order for this team to really work optimally, you need to put Artak in a cursed set to get your AoE Hex out there. Which, like, you could do this and put Deliana in a cursed set. You could do that. That actually wouldn't be bad. She brings a decent amount of utility here. She's going to give you an AoE leech. She's going to improve your survivability. She's got the decreased resistance, which is nice, and the block buffs, debuff spread thing. which works with Wukong. Although his is already AoE, but like if somebody misses, or resists. She's got a second block buffs. You don't have a buff strip. Maybe actually pull him. No, because he's your nuke. I mean, this is what you want, right? You do want to get that with Artak. Like, these are the damage dealer combos that you want. Yeah, this might be good. Put her in a curse set. The downside here is your affinities. But she gives you the block debuffs, right? I'm sorry, block buffs, not block debuffs. Block buffs, debuff. The downside of this is you don't have a buff removal. You don't have a buff strip, right? Wukong gives you a buff strip and a block debuff. So he's the better champion, but she could actually be spared to be put in a cursed set. You don't want to put Artak in a cursed set. I talked about putting her in a stun set before. You could do that too, and just like not have a hex. Like, your champions are good enough that it won't matter if you don't have a hex. You know what I mean? You have enough AoE damage that you'll just burn through the Head of Mischief anyway. So, just do this or whatever, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. Any of them will work. Any of them will work. This one's probably the best because this gives you the slow, right? That A1 slow on the head of Decay, or whichever one is the one with the provoke. That's the one that you want to have slowed down. You don't have an AoE slow, unfortunately. So, but you do want to slow on that one champion. That one Hydra head, not one champion. Sorry. Let's just run it. I don't even care. Let's just see how it works. I don't even know if everybody's built. Let's just go ahead and see. All right, so we need to provoke. We need to provoke in this rotation. No, we don't need to provoke in this rotation. Like, not at the beginning. I mean, you could get the head to come in, but the head of Blight is not. Yeah, unfortunately. We didn't have the block debuffs up. Oh, we don't have a block debuffs. Yeah, we don't have a block debuffs on this team. So let's do it. Where did that? I'm sorry, block buffs. Where did that block buffs? Is that UDK? Does UDK put it out? Yeah, this will work. This will work. You just need to get the opening. You'll have to manual the opening, to make sure that you've got the block debuffs up at the right time. But that'll work just fine. And again, we've got two 50s here that need to be either 60 or swapped out, so you do. This for now. It might work a little bit better. Get more more heals and more survivability. Yeah, so Deliana's got the block buff, and all of a sudden it's just a lot easier. But you should at the very least be able to get your Mithrala this way. You know, you should be able to 1 key or 2 key, potentially, the top chest on normal. And again, it's the same thing. You know, we were looking at the Wukong build. You know, the Wukong is not built in either direction particularly well. I know he's unbooked. It doesn't matter. Wukong's still highly valuable, even unbooked. So I definitely, you know, consider your builds. I have a couple of videos about how to build champions. And you should take a look at it because, like, he is such a good champion. He's such a good champion. You have him 6-star, fully ascended. You've got full masteries on him. This guy should be a cornerstone of your roster. He should be in your arena team. He should be doing Wukong thing. This skill is so valuable. It's so crazily good. It's such a good skill, right? AoE, before attacking, steals buffs. So gives himself the buffs before he attacks. And then places a block debuff buff on him. Does 3 awesome things, right? Plus he hits really hard. Plus he's got his passive that doesn't require any books. So this guy should be running, first of all, at, let's say, 190 to like 215 speed. Like, that's the window where you want him. Obviously 100% crit rate and as much crit damage as you can get, but with an accuracy, a minimum of 225. So, you know, get this all the way up to 16. That'll give you a little bit more accuracy. Get him in some perception sets. You know, you could do like 2 perception sets and a cruel set. That would be nice. A little bit of extra ignore defense, you know, a little bit of extra attack there, something like that. Or, you know, could be speed sets. Could be, if you have a savage set, you can run him in a savage set, but make sure that you're running him a minimum of 190. If he's not 190 speed or faster, then it's not worth it. And like I said before, you know, 210, 215 is better. But that might take a little while. So just give yourself some leeway. Say, okay, I'm going to start. Now, if I can get him into 180 speed just from the gear, then glyph him up to 190, 195. I've got 225, 240 accuracy. Use him at that point, and you'll see how good he is. And then you can incrementally improve him all over time until you get him to, you know, 220, 225 speed, you know, 325, 350 accuracy. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Get your area bonuses. You know, get your Great Hall bonuses. Keep pushing. Just real quickly. Silver 1. Speed boost. All right, Kale is fast here. It's okay. But it should be speed boost into buff strip. Actually, it should be speed boost into decreased defense, into buff strip, into nuke. This team should be able to get you gold 4. Right? You're already building Stagnite. So we're going to speed Stagnite up. You do not need to do anything with Haikatun. You can leave her at 5 stars. That's fine. She'll get you to gold 4 even at 5 stars. As long as she's running about 250. So right now she's running just under 200. So you're going to need to get her faster. So get her into preferably 6-star speed boots. And then just, get a speed substat on every single piece of gear. It does not matter what the main stat is. You don't care about any other stat on her except speed. Get her to 250, 260 if you can push it, 280 if you can really push it. Right? So that piece, roll it. That piece, roll it. Just roll. See, it literally doesn't matter what the stats are. If you can get a little bit of accuracy on her, great. You can use her in other places. But just get her to 250. Without getting her to 6 stars and getting that banner, it's going to get hard to get like up above 250, 260. Get her to 250. And then what you have is you have the Wukong speed, or you have Haikatun speed boost. You have the decreased defense from your Stagnite, and then you have the nuke from Kale. Right? We beat that team. We beat that team with the speed. I didn't even notice. He's not built. Let me just double check. Want accuracy on him if possible. Crit rate's not important. We're not quite there yet in terms. You've got a lot of gear needs, which just means grinding a little bit, right? Getting into grinding dragon a little bit, grinding your faction crypts for perception. Perception is going to be key to your account. You need hundreds of pieces of perception. Bloodthirst is actually not awful on either. beautiful. So good. $175 speed. You can still take this all the way up to 40 speed. So that's another 14. That'll get you to 189. Once you get him to 6-star and you get a banner on him, that's going to get you over 200. With glyphs, you're going to get to 225. Right? You can look to replace these two pieces, by the way. The Slayer pieces are just there because they happen to be good for what you need. The accuracy is a little bit low here. So, we would look to replace some of this with perception. So if we could get 2 perception pieces here, that would be good. If you could actually get 6 perception pieces like down the road, right now we've got retaliation pieces on him. Retaliation is good on him, especially because we're going to use him in Fire Knight. And we don't have enough turn meter control to make Fire Knight not take turns, right? So between the counterattack possibility from retaliation and the Geomancer Reflect, we might get a lot of hits to break the shield really easily after the first Fire Knight hit. But again, let's go back to that arena team that we just fought. We might be able to beat this team right now. So we just lost to this team, right? But now Stag Knight's going second. So he's going to get the drop defense and the decrease attack. We'll see if we can nuke out some more people than we did before. That's all it takes, right? The difference between a win and a loss there was just literally getting Stag Knight gear on him. But getting him speed tuned so that he could drop his defense and decrease attack before the nukers go, right? That was the whole key. And so, this team, very good. This team's going to get you into gold. It's going to be hard to push into gold 5 with this team. You could do it. You could do it. If you book Wukong out and you get the right gear on these champions and everybody was 6 stars, you could definitely do it. This team wouldn't have to change. Now, I know you're running Ultimate Death Knight a lot. Ultimate Death Knight is not fast in Arena. He doesn't help you really climb. He helps you to not fall back. So he's good on defense. Keep him in your defense team. Absolutely. Right? Because he's a pain in the butt to get through. But here again, I would probably swap out Ugo and bring in your actually, what I might even do is do this. You're already going tanky with Ultimate Death Knight. Why not support that tankiness? Wukong is all the damage you really need, right? You don't need a nuker. Like, you don't need a second nuker. Like Wukong is all the damage you need. This is enough. This team will crush, right, on defense. People will just lose to this team on defense. So all you got to do is, keep grinding with what you got here. By the way, Wukong is great into Skullcrown. If you have enough accuracy, you block debuffs, you block buffs debuff on her, and then she can't go unkillable. And this team will run full auto and do just fine. The biggest issue with your arena and your Great Hall is going to be activity. If you only have a few hours every day to play, the faster your arena team kills the enemy or loses, right? The less time you take on an auto battle, the more battles you'll actually get in every day in the same amount of time. So for you, the key is to get away from the defensive-based arena teams on offense. When you're on arena offense, when you are fighting, you want to go with a nuke them out strategy that either wins or fails spectacularly, right? Like just wins in 10 seconds or just loses and you don't care, because it doesn't waste time. So this is the way to go. This is definitely the way to go. And again, speed tune, fastest champion should be Haikatune. Second fastest champion should be Stagnite. Third fastest champion should be Wukong. Slowest champion should be Kale. And you want them all connected. And, you know, I would say shoot for, let's say you get to 240 or 250 on Haikatune at first, which means Stagnite needs to be somewhere around like 210. Okay, so 210 should be enough. 215 maybe. And then Wukong and Kale can run wherever they run. Basically, you're hoping to get them to, like we said, like 205 or whatever. But if you can't, like 190 is fine, right? You just do that. If you ever get a Deacon, you would swap him in for Stagnite, and that would be better. And that would be it would be the same team. It would be Haikatune into Deacon into whatever. Now you can also go with an increased attack champion here. So if you get like a Seeker, or you get, I think I saw Ilfrig. If you have Ilfrig, let's just do this. This guy. This guy's really good for Arena. He could replace your Haikatune. If you don't want to build Haikatune, build Ilfrig instead. Right? Because he gives you 15% speed in all battles, so you lose that 4% from 19 to 15, but big whoop. But he's got a fills turn meter by 15% plus an increased attack. So his turn meter fill is better than Haikatune's. She gives you a turn meter fill and an increased speed, but the increased speed isn't really super valuable in Arena. The turn meter fill is more important. So he gives you that increased attack, so you can make him your speed lead. Take out Haikatune, have Ilfrig instead. And again, you can run him at 5 stars, even 4 stars. You just need to get him fast. He doesn't have to be survivable at all. He doesn't need any accuracy. He needs to fire one skill one time. And he just needs to go first. So if you can get him to 240, 250, 260 speed at 4 stars, just put him in the lead. Who cares? Right? He fires one skill. That's all that you need him for. You don't need any books on him. You don't need any masteries on him. You need nothing on him but speed. Get him fast enough and let him go first. And all he needs to do is fire this skill, right? So you would run this guy into Deacon. That's 2 turn meter fillers. In fact, Deacon would be your speed lead instead. It wouldn't be Ilfrig, it would be Deacon because he has the 19%. You know, but if you don't have Deacon, that's fine. You know, you can just run this guy instead of Haikatune. And the same team that we were just talking about. So it's Ilfrig into Stagnite, into Wukong, into Kale. All right. All right. Yeah, Sauce, that's true. You do need Sniper Mastery on Kale because, I'm sorry, not on Kale, on Stagnite because his decreased defense and decreased attack is a 95% chance of landing. So you need that extra 5% on Sniper in order to make it 100%. You don't need Stagnite with crit rate. You can build, he hits decently hard. He actually does hit decently hard. So once you get to the point where your gear is getting better and better and better, and you've got all 6-star gear and you got a lot of, you know, forge pieces and stuff like that, you can look to get him to 100% crit rate, and he does hit hard. He actually has pretty good damage. That's a good point, Shock. So Ilfrig does go into the Lady Mikage fusion. So you're going to want him at level 50 at some point anyway. He's right here. So you're going to need to get him to 50. So you can run him up to 50, use him in Arena until you can fuse Kira the Watcher. Now, if you ever get an opportunity to fuse Kira the Watcher, she becomes your ally protector for Clan Boss. She's got a great ally protect. It's up for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. She also places the increased defense. That's where that extra survivability comes from. She also has a really consistent decrease attack, but she has an A1 decrease attack and she has a passive decrease attack. And then she can also decrease the duration of enemy buffs by 1 turn, which has a chance to like help that increased attack buff on the boss come off faster. very tanky, really nice. You know, obviously she does fuse into Lady Mikage, so if you don't pull an extra copy of her, like you can build her to 60, but don't book her, I guess, you know, because then you won't want to fuse her into Lady Mikage, and Lady Mikage is so good. So, you know, you have this kind of step up thing where it's like you can build Ilfrig for a while, use him into into Kira, use her for a while, and then fuse her into Lady Mikage. Or if you ever just get an extra copy, or don't, just hold on to Ilfrig and don't fuse the Kira at all. You know, you don't need Kira. By that point, you'll probably have another solution. You might have an unkillable solution anyway. Keith Wilson, could you give a brief explanation why Stag Knight doesn't need full crit rate, please? Let's see. All right, so this would be a very quick rundown, and this is actually a good thing to do for this takeover because I don't have time to do another takeover, but I do want to continue to help people. So maybe I'll just answer questions for a little bit. So if you have a question about gearing, about champions, about the theory of anything, like how to make the most out of any given champion or how to do any fight, just start shooting out questions. I'm going to start answering questions. That's just what I'm going to do for the rest of this. I've got about another half an hour, so I can't really do another takeover. So I'm just going to answer questions. But here's a really good question. So Keith Wilson asked, you know, like, why doesn't Stag Knight need 100% crit rate? So early in your account's life, when you don't have the gear to get just god stats, right? When you don't have all of the area bonuses, when you don't have all of the affinity bonuses, when you don't have like your guardian ring fully fleshed out, when you don't have all that stuff, you need very specific stats, right? And so what you want to think of is each champion should have one primary purpose. Now, some champions are really easy, like because they only have one potential primary purpose. And I'll give you an example. In this particular roster, we have Doom Priest. Doom Priest cleanses and heals. That's it. She has a passive cleanse and heal simultaneously, right? So if you go to her skills, she's got this. Heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes one random debuff for them at the start of this champion's turn. That's her only job. You don't care about the damage she deals. You don't care about the increased attack, really. And you don't care about her aura because it's only for force allies. So you really, really care about her passive. So in order to fire off her passive and to increase the value of the passive, you need speed or you need more turns. So we've got potential for like relentless or potential for speed, right? Does she need accuracy? No, she has no debuffs. Does she need crit rate? No, we don't care about her damage. So if there are any additional stats past speed that we want survivability. She can't fire off this passive if she's dead. So HP percentage, defense percentage. You don't care about resistance that much because her cleanse is a passive. So even if she's stunned, she's going to fire it off. Even if she's frozen, she's going to fire it off. It literally can't be stopped except by a block passive's debuff. That's the only thing that could stop it. So she's got one purpose, right? Cleanse, heal, and stay alive. But that's every champion's purpose, stay alive, right? So this is a very, very simple, direct kind of champion that you can build. Now, let's say you get her to god tier stats. You've got crazy, crazy stats. You might ask yourself, well, is it more valuable to stack like 7,000 defense on her or keep her at like 5,000 defense and give her 100% crit rate and some crit damage? At that point, you could probably put some damage on her. Why not? It might speed up some of the runs where she's in. But her goal, like in the early and mid game, isn't to speed up your runs. It's to just make you succeed, right? By keeping you alive, keeping you not stunned or not poisoned or not heal reduced or whatever. Now let's look at Stag Knight. What is Stag Knight's primary purpose? Well, he brings a lot, right? despite having a very simple kit, he brings a lot. He has a slow on his A1. An A1 slow is an incredibly valuable tool. Each hit has a 50% chance when booked. That means you have a 75% chance of landing a decreased speed as long as you don't weak hit. So for 3 affinities, it's a 75% chance. For the 4th affinity, it's like a 40% chance. Okay. So decreased speed. Now you have a decreased attack and a decreased defense, right? This is the AoE. This is usually why you're using him. This is like the most important skill. This is really, really good for certain places, but this is good pretty much across the board. Every dungeon, every arena fight, clan boss, everything. So he needs to land his decreased defense and he needs to land his decreased attack. That requires accuracy. So the first most important stat on Stag Knight is accuracy. Also, generally, for a debuffer, you want to have them speed tuned in the right place in the turn order. You want them near the top of the turn order. They should be fast, right? They don't have to be first necessarily, but they want to go before your nukers, and your nukers generally run slower than everybody else. So he's either going to be at the top of the turn order or in the middle of the turn order, but he's going to be ahead of the nuke. So accuracy first, then speed. Now, just like we were talking about Doom Priest, he needs to be alive to do his job. So the third goal is tankiness, HP percentage, defense percentage. And then just like Doom Priest, if you've got the gear, if you've got the substats, if you've got, all the extra stats from the Great Hall and area bonuses, and you can put them in 100% crit rate and crit damage, then you get that extra damage out of them. But remember, like in Clan Boss, he increases the damage of your team by decreasing the defense of the boss. Right? That is actually how he increases. He doesn't do the damage. He allows your nukers to do more damage because they have less defense to contend with. This is true for every debuff. Now, if you want to kind of roughly break down champions break down into a lot of subcategories, but they're basically 4 categories, maybe 5 that you need to worry about. You have your engines, your go champions, your turn meter fillers and speed boosters, right? So that's Haikatun. It's Apothecary, right? They do nothing but make your team go faster, right? Or maybe they do a couple other things, but their primary purpose is to make your team go faster. You have debuffers of all kinds. Anybody who needs accuracy to make their effect. By the way, Wukong could fall into this category if you're using him as a buff stripper, right? You have your cleansers, healers, revivers, Doom Priest, Elva. You have your utility champions, right? Maybe like specific champions. Well, not even. Let's go with like the debuff damage dealers like Artak, and then you have your damage dealers like Wrathflow, right? So it's like you can kind of break them down into those 5 categories, or even 4 categories, really, because it's like you have champions that don't require accuracy, like buffers, like Haikatun doesn't require accuracy. You can get extra utility out of her accuracy, but you don't need her you don't need accuracy. Rathalos also doesn't need accuracy. So your damage dealers and your buffers don't need accuracy. You have your debuffers and your utility champions. So it could be debuffers like decreased attack, decreased defense. It could be damage dealers like HP burners and poisoners. It could be turn meter controllers or stun champions, crowd controllers. It could be, the block debuffs, whatever. So those champions all need accuracy. You have your protectors. We didn't talk about the protectors. So that would be Ultimate Death Knight, who needs tankiness, survivability, right? So it's like you can kind of see where these break down. And early in the game, you just want to build them for the one primary purpose. Some champions can maybe be built for 2 purposes, like Sun Wukong. Build them in a damagey perception set. Like go crit rate, crit damage, but get all the accuracy and speed. Do you know what I mean? So he's not going to hit nuke as hard as he could, but he's still going to perform his primary role of buff strip, and then he's still going to hit hard. Okay, so let's answer some questions. Hi, Colruyt. I was wondering if I didn't have Elva, who could I use instead? I do have a Calvalax. Could he be replaced for her? So it depends where you're talking about. Calvalax does have an increased speed buff, I believe, and he has a speed aura, right? But he's not a reviver. He is a damage dealer. So Calvalax is here, I think, right? So he does have the 19% in all battles. That's great. And I think, oh, he doesn't have an increased speed. Okay, I thought he did. So like he's good. He's good in a lot of places, but he's not really an Elva, right? An Elva is giving you a cleanse, a block debuffs, an increased speed buff, and a revive, plus heals. He does none of those things. So the only crossover is the speed. There aren't that many replacements for Elva. I don't know. I mean, if you're looking for the speed boost specifically, there are replacements. You can get speed boosts out of a lot of. You could get Razzlevarg or Theodore or, Haikatoon or Apothecary. Like there are replacements for her speed buff. If you're looking for just a speed aura, then you have a ton of Razzlevarg again or Cardiel or Cardiel's probably pretty close because he has the cleanse, the block debuffs, the revive on death, the heals, and the speed aura. So he's probably the closest, but he's harder to get than Elva. So there aren't that many 1-for-1 swaps for Elva. Usually if you're pulling out an Elva, you need to replace her with more than one champion. Colruyt, how's the kiddo doing? Has mom recovered fully? Mom is still in recovery. It'll take several more weeks. But she's doing well, and I appreciate the inquiry. Baby is doing awesome. He is an absolute boss. He's awesome, and he's healthy and happy. So thank you. All right, I'm gonna look for some extra questions. Can you try the new Wixwell comp in your own account? I will. As soon as I get Wixwell fused and built, I'll probably use him. I'll mess around with him. What's the best build for Lydia? Lydia is so again, we think about that purpose, right? What does Lydia do? Well, she's a debuffer, but she's also a buffer. Right? So here's the thing. You want the weaken and the decreased defense. She also gives you the strengthen and the increased speed. The strengthen and the increased speed don't take any accuracy. The decreased defense and weaken do. So I treat her like a debuffer. I treat her like a debuffer, which means I want her fast, accurate, and survivable. So the same way I would build Stagnite, I would build Lydia, right? So perception sets with HP percentage or defense percentage on the chest plate and gauntlet, as fast as I could possibly get her. If you could get her to 300 speed, awesome. I would probably say you want her at least 260, 265. You can run her a little bit slower if you run her with a speed aura. So you could run her at like 245, maybe with like a 19% speed aura or another speed booster. But remember, she gives an increased speed. So you want her to go early in the turn order. So not only does she debuff everybody early in the turn order, she increases the speed of your team early in the turn order to get the most value out of it, because it doesn't make sense to increase your speed at the back of the turn order, right? She needs to be near the top of the turn order. So really, really fast. Really, really fast. And an accuracy, again, towards endgame, like 450. Although you could get away with like 360. Like if you're just using her PvE, but if you use her in PvP content, you want her like 450, 500 accuracy. What goes into creating a speed tune for Clan Boss? What are the important factors to consider when building a team like Wixwell Infinite Shield? Okay, so the Clan Boss speed tune, let me do this real quickly. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. What goes into it? Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Better. Okay. Now I've done a lot of videos on speed tuning, so you can go and look through my library, and there's a lot there. All right, but I'm going to take you to the calculator here. I'm just going to click on a blank calculator page. All right, so this is the way this looks. We've got 5 champions here, right? And now these are the clan boss turns. Clan boss AoE 1 is the left column. AoE 2 is the middle column. Stun attack is the right column. So the clan boss does a cycle of 3 attacks and then goes back to the beginning. So it does AoE 1, AoE 2, stun, goes back to AoE 1, AoE 2, stun. And so if you're speed tuning, what goes into a speed tune is several things. One is you want to make sure that you understand exactly when your skills are firing in this cycle of the clan boss, right? So if we think about it this way, first of all, the Ultra Nightmare clan boss goes at 190 speed. We can see that up here. So let's say we want to go faster than the clan boss, and we're going to go for a 1-to-1 ratio. We're just going to take 1 turn for every turn of the clan boss. So we're going to do something like, I don't know, we'll go 210 here, 206, 202, 198, and 190. And so what you're seeing is everybody gets 1 turn, and then the clan boss goes, right? So it goes champion 0, then champion 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then clan boss. And then it repeats itself, and then it repeats itself, then it repeats itself. Okay. So this is the basic thing that's going on, right? Here's the issue. We're going to get slowed on the AoE 2 on Spirit Affinity. So if I put it on Spirit Affinity, we get slowed, and you can see that that messes up the turn order, or it changes the turn order. Like, you can use that change to your advantage, but it definitely breaks the turn order that we had originally, right? There's another thing, is that the boss stuns at the end of its stun turn. And that means somebody's going to miss a cooldown. If they get stunned, their next turn, they're not going to do anything. And remember that when you're stunned, you lose, like, your cooldowns don't refresh. So you lose the cooldown refresh that you normally get. So one thing that we can do is we can consider how to handle those debuffs. And there are a whole bunch of different ways to do it. But the easiest way to do it, for instance, would be to put a Doom Priest in this spot. Now you'll notice that the tune goes back into tune. Like, it didn't change anymore. Why? Well, Doom Priest goes first. So when everybody gets slowed after the second AoE, Doom Priest then goes and her passive cleanses everybody of the slow. And so nobody gets affected by the slow, right? Or you get affected by the slow only for Doom Priest's turn, which is almost the same as not being affected at all. It's not quite the same, but it's almost the same. And it's enough the same that you can see the speed tune still works. Simultaneously, what happens when the boss stuns somebody? Well, on the very next turn, Doom Priest cleanses it. It doesn't even matter if she gets stunned, because Doom Priest cleanses based on a passive, so her passive just goes off. So this is a really easy way to handle the slow and to handle the stun. Great, and now we have a 1-to-1 speed tune. So now we want to think about, well, what skills are we using in these turns? So, for instance, are we going to land a decrease attack? Where are we going to land it? Well, remember that the AoE 1 hits everybody, the AoE 2 hits everybody, the stun only hits one target. So let's say you have a champion like Fane. Let's put up Fane. Now, Fane has a decrease attack that she applies. And she applies it on her let's actually look. Is it her A2 or A3? I forget. It's her A2. Okay. Now here in, let's see, let's land her a, okay, so you see right now her A2 is firing second, right? Now it goes up for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. You can see her A2, right, has a 3-turn cooldown. So I actually want to fire it in the first column because I want the AoEs to have the decrease attack up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delay the A3 by 1 turn. Actually, no, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to prioritize the A2. And so what that's going to do is going to keep the A2 always in the first column. You see it always fires in the first column? So that means the decrease attack, when it lands, will be up for 2 turns. It should be a 100% chance to land, but she can weak hit, right? And she can get the 3% resist. So that means the AoE 1 and AoE 2 will always have the decrease attack up. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. So as long as I have a skill on a 3-turn cooldown, I can force it to be in the same place every time on a 1-1-2, right? If I want people to go faster, like I want them to go more than 1 turn per clan boss turn, now it gets trickier and we do all this other stuff. But okay, so now I've got this up, right? So now I might want to say, you know, well, what about heals? What about shields? What about decreased defense? What about, you know, all these other things? But this is the basics of speed tuning. Figuring out what order you want your skills to go in when you want them to fire. I want Fane's A2 in the first column so it covers both of her AoE, or both of the clan boss's AoEs. That's going to keep my team alive the longest. I want Doom Priest at the top of the turn order. If I put Doom Priest here, and let's say up here I put, I don't know, Gale, right? Not Dark Gale. Right, Doom Priest is now cleansing at the bottom of the turn. That is a useless place to cleanse. If you're gonna cleanse with the Doom Priest, you want them at the top. You want the Doom Priest at the top of the turn order. Why? Well, because that way you remove the debuff for everybody's turns. This way, everybody goes with the debuff on them, and then the debuff comes off at the end of the turn when it's not useful. So figuring out what the turn order is, where you want the skills to go, that's what speed tuning is. Right? Now, there are all sorts of speed tunes that are recorded here. So if you're looking for a speed tune with a particular champion, you can just go ahead and put in the champion's name. So let's say I have a Haika tune and I want to speed tune with a Haika tune. Just put that in here, and I'm going to get a list of all the teams that use Haika tune. This White Whale is a really good one to look at. So this requires 2 speed champions or a speed champion and a buff extender, right? And you can actually see, if you scroll down here, you get 2 versions. You get a buff extender, right? And you get a double booster. So let's go to the double booster. Now here you get an example. So we've got Haika tune and Apothecary as our 2 speed boosters, right? And then we've got 3 other champions. Now remember what we were talking about with the slow from Spirit Affinity and with the stun from the 3rd turn of the clan boss. You still need to handle those in some way, right? Now, one way you can handle them is by not handling, like just letting them land on somebody. And as long as it doesn't land on Haika tune or Apothecary, like as long as one of those 2 aren't stunned, it won't change the speed tune, right? Like it'll just take somebody out of the turn order, but it'll be a damage dealer, and they're not affecting the turn order, right? If you change when a speed buff lands, if you change when a turn meter fill goes, you've changed the turn order. But if you just prevent somebody from like A1ing once, who cares? You know, or like using a nuke once, like that doesn't change the speed tune. So that's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it would be to have like a block debuff. So you can see there's a block debuff that goes up here. Marked puts up a block debuffs, and that would hopefully prevent the slow on some of the champions. You can mess around with where that goes. So for instance, like Brogny's a champion. Where would I want Brogny? Let's make this Brogny. And let's go ahead and delay that A3 by 1 turn. Okay, so now what happens is under Priest Brogni puts up a block debuffs here. This will prevent the slow from happening on the Spirit Affinity. So Spirit Affinity no longer changes the speed tune because the Spirit, the slow on that A2 is prevented. So that's sort of, the concept behind speed tuning is using the skills and the speeds of the champion to just make a very predictable pattern that is optimal for your team. That's ultimately what speed tuning is. A predictable pattern of actions that are optimized for your outcome and your champion. All right, we'll take a couple more questions. Any other questions? Speed boosters are susceptible to... White Whale is... Every speed tune has its trickiness. Every speed tune requires an understanding of how it works mechanically and then tweaking it to make sure that you get the result that you want. White Whale isn't particularly harder than other speed tunes. Whoops. It's harder than some. It's easier than others, I guess, is what I would say. Hey, Burso. Which would be better upgrade, Double Maneater or Deacon Eater? This is from Budget Unkillable. They're both good. Depends. Do you have the Deacon already built? If all of your champions are built, then probably Double Maneater. For a couple of reasons. The first thing I would say is you want to run Deacon Armstrong faster than you run him in the Deacon Eater comp. Like if you're using him in places like Arena or Doom Tower, you'd want to run him at like 280, speed. Whereas for the Deacon Eater, you're running him at like 245 or 250. So I think just having him detached allows you more freedom. The other thing is actually the speeds are easier for Double Maneater. So if you do the fast Double Maneater comp, like getting those speeds, it's actually slower. Despite having the Deacon, you're slower. The one thing that you lose is the decreased defense, like the AoE drop defense. So you need to replace that. But Double Maneater allows you to bring in any 3 DPS you want, right? And you don't need a speed booster. And the speeds are all managed. It's the easier comp to build, and it's arguably the one that's going to be more damage. Maybe. I mean, Deacon Eater's faster. Like the speed requirements are higher because it takes more turns. Let me just look at this. Let me see. So let's pull up Deacon Eater. So this is the Deacon Eater, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 21. 21. You get 33 actions, but 3 of them are Deacon's extra turns. So you get 30 actions. You get 30 actions per cycle. And then let's pull up the fast Double Maneater. And this one you get 5, 10, 16 actions. So 30 actions versus 16 actions, right? The Deacon Eater actually gets a lot more action. So that might be the better damage overall. The difference here is like you can literally bring in 3 damage dealers. So you can have 5 damage dealing champions, whereas with the Deacon Eater, you know, you're bringing in a Pain Keeper and a Deacon who don't do damage. So you're getting 3 damage dealers instead of, you know, if you count the Man Eaters as damage dealers, which I do because they hit hard. And you want to build them with 100% crit rate, all the crit damage you can. So it's a trade-off, I guess. Based on what the website says this is a 1-key Ultra Nightmare, and it's so Deacon Eater is a hard difficulty speed tune with 1-key Ultra Nightmare potential. And if you go to fast double Man Eater, it says that it is a very easy speed. You can see it's the easiest of easy speed tunes, and it's a 4-key Ultra Nightmare. The double Man Eater is not a 4-key Ultra Nightmare. It's not. Maybe when this was created, people were like, you know, they didn't know how to do it, and it's a very easy 2-key Ultra Nightmare to get. But getting it to a 1-key Ultra Nightmare takes specific champions and very good gear. But this should be like right away, it should be a 3-key Ultra Nightmare, and you could push this to a 2-key Ultra Nightmare pretty easily. So if you're looking to upgrade from the budget unkillable, which is like a tough 3-key Ultra Nightmare, to it like a pretty easy 2-key Ultra Nightmare, the double Man Eater is great. If you go, you know, Deacon Eater, potentially with the right damage dealer, maybe this is a 1-key. I don't know. I haven't run this myself. So I'm just thinking theoretically. The problem is this is just harder to build. Look at this first Man Eater. This first Man Eater is running at 304 to 307. Right? And the slow Man Eater is still running 269 minimum. Plus a Pain Keeper at 268 minimum. Plus a DPS at over 220 minimum. So this is a harder comp to build. Plus you have to slow your Deacon Armstrong all the way down to 253 at the fastest. So it feels to me like, as a free-to-play player, if I were looking to make more value out of my roster, like this is more flexible, it's easier to build, and it's probably a 2-key Ultra Nightmare within a reasonable amount of time. So it would be a nice upgrade from the budget unkillable. That's where I would go first. What should you put Astrid in gear-wise? Astrid needs speed, and she does need accuracy. Oops. Where no? All right. I have yet to build my Astrid, but so she does need accuracy for the sleep, for the decreased speed, for the weaken, and then also for that's it. The turn meter decrease, right? Turn meter decrease. So it seems like a no-brainer to put her in 3 sets of perception. Right? That would definitely be the starting place. You want her fast, you want her accurate. Those are the only things you care about, and then you want tankiness, right? Like she is the legendary version of Deacon Armstrong. She's the legendary version of Deacon Armstrong. She's got the turn meter decrease, she's got the turn meter fill, she's got the weaken instead of the decreased defense, but she's got more, right? Because she's a legend. So she's got, you know, an aura. Unfortunately, this is arena battles. I wish this was like a 21% all battles or 24% all battles, like Lysandra. But the point being, you build her exactly the same way you would build Deacon Armstrong. So 3 sets of perception, accuracy banner, get her accuracy up high, like 500 if you could push it that high, but a minimum of 360, 355, 360. For all the PvE content, and then more if you can get it. Speeds you want, she should be very, very fast. She doesn't have to be the fastest champion in your roster, but you could make her the fastest champion in your roster. You could run her at 340 or 370, 380. You could run her that fast. But it would be hard to do that without speed gear, right? So probably she's going to be behind your fastest speed booster. So if your fastest speed booster is who's your fastest speed booster? Lady Kimmy, Lysandra. You know, like she might run slower than Armand. But I would say for mid game, like 250, 260 absolute minimum speed for like solid mid game speed. She needs to be fast. And then as you approach late game, you should be getting close to 300. Like 300 would be a really nice place to sit her, because then she would be connected to your fastest champions without like you can do 300 speed in perception. It's hard. It's hard to do 300 speed in perception, but you can do it. But even like 280, 285 would be perfect. Any other questions? Hey, Freaky. All right. Well, listen, thank you to my one takeover player today. Hades Wannabe. I love the name. Thanks for letting me tool around on your account. I hope you found this helpful. By the way, just so you know, you do have an ancient shard here in the shop. You're going to need to sell some gear because I used up all your silver. I used up like 2 million silver. But good luck. I hope you make some progress. If you have any questions, definitely shoot me a DM in my Discord. Keep me updated on the takeover. I'd love to see the progress that my takeover winners have in the coming months. So definitely let me know. Also, if you have any questions in general, anybody out there, feel free to post your roster in our Discord community. We have a lot of players who play in the Discord, who check the Discord on a regular basis and are happy to give you advice. You can also always go at Colred in any message, and I'll see that it's there, and I'll check it out, and maybe I'll respond as well. I don't have as much time as I used to have. By the way, if you have been commenting on my recent videos, I have not responded to the comments on my last 3 or 4 videos. I haven't done any responses to comments, and I apologize for that because I usually prioritize that. I've been running on like 4 hours sleep, and I don't have time to actually play the game that much. So I'm trying to keep up with things, and that's one of the things that's fallen by the wayside. But especially for you members, I promise I will get back to it, and I will be answering members' comments in the upcoming weeks. That's a high priority for me. I want to make sure my members are always getting their perks. So welcome to our new members, by the way. We got 10 new members today. 2 people gifted 5 subs each. So that's awesome. All right, that is, do you still have the previous video of my takeover? All of the previous Takeover Tuesdays are posted in the playlist. There's a playlist for Takeover Tuesdays. So just go and find the date where you had your takeover, and it never comes down. It stays up permanently. So you can always check out old takeovers if you are interested. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, you all have a good week. I will be back next Tuesday, so come back. Hopefully I'll be back on time at 1 p.m., but we'll have to see. And if I'm not going to be on time, I will try to post in the Discord, or I will let you know in the video on Monday, because I always do a Monday video. So, yeah, that's it for now. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see y'all soon. See if I can spell.